Hello and welcome to Inside F2. Joining us today, we have Ferrari Junior and Prema Formula 2 driver Robert Shwartzman. First of all, Robert, thank you very much for joining us. How are you and what have you been up to since Bahrain?
I'm good, thanks. Well, training, and just preparation. We done the test in Barcelona, and now we're here preparing for Monaco.
I want to take you back to where it all started. What's your earliest memory of motorsport, both watching it and driving as well?
Well, the earliest memory, I mean, it was the first time I drove was when I was 4. I just remember that day when I just sit down in the tiny little go-kart, and it was my dad. It was a bit cold because it was in Russia, but it was a lot of fun. I remember that. It was really interesting and really cool. And me driving the go-kart, there was also one sort of my teammate, one guy next to me, and we were like sort of racing each other a bit. So it was fun. Uh, and just watching races, I remember just watching Formula One. I don't exactly remember which race, but I remember there was Mika Hakkinen with Michael Schumacher that they were fighting. I think I think last year of Mika, and yeah, I mean it was also quite cool and interesting to watch the F1 races, and yeah, that's the first memories I think from what I
Yeah.
remember.
And in terms of role models, for example, did you have any role models that you kind of looked, or anyone you looked up to when you were growing up, or how important were role models for a younger Robert Sportsman?
I mean, my role model was, I think, more my dad, where we sort of like loved racing, loved cars, and every time I was growing up, I was trying to learn as much as possible from him, and it was always interesting to look after him and look at what he's doing, and he would just tell me not just particularly about racing, but generally in life and all the rest, like history, maybe music, films, and stuff. So, I mean, to me, the role model was my dad, most of it. So,
And was there anyone that you kind of looked up to? Who was there? Who was the one particular driver that you looked up to when you were younger? Was there any?
well, at that stage was Michael, which was basically dominating at this stage. A bit after that, I sort of learned and knew who Ayrton was, and I started to follow Ayrton. And then when I looked at all the races, because I mean, he passed away quite a long time after I was basically came out, and so I had to look at the history, and then I sort of like really got interesting in what he was doing, and after that he became my idol, which he's still now. So I think yeah, it's between Michael and coming to Ayrton.
You've been a Ferrari Junior for a little while now. They've obviously helped you develop on track, but have they developed helped you develop off track as well? What kind of things do they work on? Obviously, there's a lot that goes into being a modern day driver, as well as just driving, of course.
It's I don't know. It's quite a tough question. I mean, we do the workout, but I think most of the work we do it's just to prepare for the racetrack. So their main target is to develop the drivers to be the strongest on the racetrack. So they're not developing any models or any singers or whatever. Their full focus is to sort of develop the racing driver to be as much professional, quick, I don't know, consistent, mentally strong, physically strong. So that's the keys for them. But it's all related to racing. So I can't really, point out that they're doing something in particular that which is not related to racing. Most of our preparation and training is related to racing and to be as strong as possible on the racetrack.
You've obviously recently had the opportunity, as you said earlier, to drive the 2018 Ferrari Challenger, which must have been an incredible experience. How much do experiences like that help you in terms of your development? And is it difficult jumping from a Formula One car into a Formula Two car? Is the transformation a little bit more difficult?
Yeah, well, I mean, to drive the F1 car was awesome. I mean, it's been a big pleasure. The car is very quick, and generally it was a big surprise for me just how much G-force the car is sort of giving you. But the jump and the difference is quite big, and to be honest, sometimes it was a bit hard for me to sort of get back on the F2 style, because when you get used to F1, it's different speed, different entry speed, and just different driving. And in F2 it's a bit different. Also the driving style is a bit different. So I mean, at some point it was a bit hard, but well, I need to sort of adjust myself to it. But it was very nice. And the F1 car, it's actually like, I don't know, I found it quite quick to like sort of get used to it. It's a very very interesting car, but it has a lot of things that sort of help you to get the feedback as quick as possible. Therefore, I think after a few runs, I already had pretty decent feedback with the car, and generally the car was just really nice to drive, so it was good.
Physically, how do they compare? Obviously, you have power steering in a Formula One car. Is it physically tougher to drive a Formula One car than a Formula Two car?
To be honest, I don't think so. Maybe just neck wise, because I mean, yeah, you have the power steering, and the car is just not really tough on the steering wheel. It's basically just tough on your neck. And in Abu Dhabi test, I've done the most laps of anybody. I did, I think, 147 laps or 41 laps. I don't remember, which was a lot. And yeah, I mean, at the end, I was quite physically tired, but I still managed to do so many laps. So I think. F2, it's a bit harder on the steering wheel because we don't have the power steering, so it's more related on the shoulders and hands.
I want to talk to you about your helmet. Personally, I think it's one of the best lids on the grid. Break it down for us. Is there any meaning behind any of the designs on your helmet?
Yeah, well, actually, the design was created with me and my dad. It was a long time ago. It was at this sort of stage where I just started to have the competition in Europe with karting, and I needed to have a helmet and my own design. And we were looking at design, and generally I have all the time the flowers, which is in Russian it's called khakhlama. It's like a special type of flower, which is a Russian flower, and it's a tradition thing in Russia. And therefore, we were looking at the design. We found these flowers with gold, and we thought like there is not a driver who has the gold lid, so why don't we do the flowers with sort of gold basis? And therefore, yeah, it's sort of become a thing. I took that design, and everybody started to look at it, and somebody liked it, somebody not, because it depends on the taste, on the colors and stuff. But I'm actually happy because a lot of people liking the helmet, and I really appreciate it because I really like it too. And even though I sort of adjusted a few things, but I always keep the same tradition. You know, it's already how many years I'm racing, and I mean 16 years, and most of these years I always keep the same sort of colors and flowers. And I think it's still one of the elements where you can easily sort of find me on the track, which you don't need to look, number of the car or the car design. You can just look at the helmet and straight away recognize me, which is also, I think, a very important point.
It goes well with the Prema car as well, doesn't it? They look good together.
Yeah, Prema car looks good too. I mean, there is a person right here who did a pretty good job at designing it and choosing the right color. So yeah.
Okay. You've had your fair amount of teammates in your career. Who's been the quickest teammate that you've raced against?
Well, I don't have a specific teammate because I had a lot of teammates, but I think most of my teammates were very competitive and very strong, which is a good thing. And to be honest, I don't really remember if I had any teammates who wasn't really like the top level. I always had a high competition inside the team, and therefore there is not one word, because it's also quite hard to judge. I mean, it depends on category, on the times, and what was going on. But I just know that most of my teammates were very strong and competitive, and it was always a big challenge to beat them.
And how does Oscar compare with your other teammates?
Well, he's good. He's right. I mean, we found like good agreement between each other. We have a good chat. Obviously, on the racetrack, we're teammates, but also rivals. But outside the track, we can have a good talk. We have, I don't know, we meet each other sometime. We go to dinner together to talk about some stories and stuff. So I mean, he's pretty chill. So I like people who are calm and not really, how we can say, like aggressive and like cocky and that type of people. He's very nice guy. So I found
Aussies are usually very chilled out, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if you had to pick a driver, past or present, can be a Formula One driver, for example, that you would like to be your teammate and are supposed to be a benchmark for you to kind of test yourself against, who would you pick and why?
Well, I would definitely pick Ayrton because, I mean, as I said before, I didn't manage to sort of witness him in real life because I was born later, but just how competitive and strong and wise he was, and to get his sort of that feeling of how he was just driving the car, I would really wanted him to be my teammate. And I know it's a big call because probably he's going to be one of the toughest teammates to beat out there, but still I would go for it. And, I would push super hard. I would just get everything out of me just to beat him, because I think if I would have had the chance to beat him, that would have been the most, I think, prestigious thing you could ever ask in racing. So yeah, it would have been him.
And if you beat him, you're doing your job right, don't you? So
Yeah, I did the job right, and I mean everything is going quite well. So it's not a consistent thing for sure. The next day, as soon as I beat him, he's gonna do everything to beat me. So, but that's why it would have been very interesting and fun.
and vice versa, right? You'll be doing the same thing, trying to beat him.
Yeah, so it would have been like like all these movies and fights, like James Hunt versus Niki Lauda, always pushing each other to the limit.
Ayrton Senna, Robert Shwartzman. There you go. We maybe. In terms of this season, is the championship still the aim for this season, or are you simply just looking to continue to develop and take it race by race?
Well, I mean, championship is the key, is the most important thing there is. But at the same time, each race it's also key. But I mean, now that I take the second year, I just need to be more consistent, I think, and just need to put everything together. I think the pace and the speed we have, which is a very important thing, and the experience and knowledge in the racing and the strategies we also have. So, as I said, just need to deliver the job. But like from what happened in Bahrain, there is still some things I didn't know and I had to learn. But it's always an experience, and it's always a good thing to learn something new.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you learned things from Bahrain. How helpful was the test? Did you learn things from the test as well?
Yes, I did. It was, I think, quite good test for the team because we were trying some different things, and well, some of those things was a bit hard for me to understand. But it's just important that team understands what is good and what is not good, and therefore we use our maximum knowledge of putting the car at the best shape as possible for the race weekends.
Yeah, good, and that's going to be very important in Monaco, I'm sure. Hypothetically, if I was to fast forward to Abu Dhabi and I was to say you could win the Formula 2 title, but at the expense of your Formula 3 title, would you take it? Would you take the Formula 2 title?
Well, for sure, I would take the F2 title because that's the I think a bit more prestigious than the F3 title. Even though I mean both of these titles are prestigious, and I would take both. I'll be a greedy boy who's gonna take both. That's the thing.
Yeah, good. Hopefully that happens this season for you. Robert, it's been great to speak to you. From all of us here at Inside F2, thank you very much for sitting down with us, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thank you.